What's up, Not Just Developers? Welcome back to a new episode of Not Just Podcast. Today, I invited a very special guest. Today, I invited the co-founder of Screensdesign, Alex. Alex, before Screen Designs, actually built and grew an application, bootstrapped it, and then sold it for more than $1 million at the beginning of 2025. Instead of buying Lambos, he invested more time and more effort and resources in Screen Designs, making it the biggest platform out there for inspirations for UX, onboarding screens, and now it actually can help you build your onboarding, your screens, your paywalls with the help of AI. So Alex knows a thing or two about the best practices and highly effective onboarding flows. So that's why I invited him today here, so we can pick his brain, learn from him, study what he knows and what he saw working in the industry, so that we can implement this in our own applications and grow together. Hello, Alex, and welcome to the podcast. How are you feeling today?
Amazing after your intro. I mean, that was a big deal. Thank you so much for that. Makes me makes me proud of myself, I guess.
I'm going to jump right into this because I want to extract the maximum amount of knowledge from you. And by the end, we are actually going to look at some examples together and actually build some onboarding screens here live. So I'm excited for that as well. But first, I wanted to ask you, why is onboarding so important? You've built a business based on the onboarding flows, and we're doing a podcast today focused about onboardings, but why is it such a big deal?
It's such a big deal because we learned the hard way that without a very strong onboarding flow, you would not be profitable or as profitable as you could be. When we started out, for us, the math didn't make sense in our social media growth app that then we sold. And we really realized the hard way that we had to improve both on the acquisition side, so as far as ads and creatives and hooks, and also on the onboarding and paywall side. A lot of people these days only speak about paywalls, but in my opinion, onboarding flow and paywall are the same thing together. I mean, and only focusing on the paywall will only lead to minor results. Of course, very bad paywall compared to a very good paywalls makes a difference. But then if you put on top of it also a very strong onboarding flow, then you will see that the numbers start to change dramatically. And so that's how we learned that onboarding flows were huge. And then we started testing every single screen, understanding psychological principles of onboarding flows, what to put there, what not to put there. And with relentless iteration, then we managed to build a very, very profitable app. And then we sold it for a good amount at the beginning of 2025. And then from there, we knew that we built our own library internally to studying other apps and what they were doing. And we did understand that without a good library, you couldn't do the experiments that otherwise would lead you to success. And
Yeah.
so we realized that there were other libraries, but they were only focused on the UX, UI side. And instead, for us, it was all about like nailing the onboarding flow. And that's how Screens Design was born. And we decided to make it public out there because nothing like that existed. And and yeah, it's been a very, very fun ride since 1 year. We're growing nicely, and it's super interesting.
Perfect. Yeah, I've been using it for more than 1 year, I think, as inspiration, and now I'm using it to actually generate stuff, which we're gonna do a bit later. But I wanted to follow up with a question: what is the actual goal of onboarding? Like when I, as an indie developer, go and implement an onboarding, what am I trying to achieve there?
Well, you're trying to achieve a couple things. At the end of the day, it is about having your user understand what the benefits, what your app does, and why they should choose you and not the competition, maybe. So your positioning, your angle, and clarifying what your features are, and and at the end of the day, as a user, the goal is clarity, but as a developer, the goal is profits, clearly. So
Okay.
an app with a strong onboarding flow will allow users to say, yes, this is for me. Let me go on and start my free trial, or let me go on and convert. And so this will make a huge difference to your bottom line.
Okay, so we're trying to meet at at the middle. From one side, like the user is when downloading an app, he's still not very sure like if this
Yeah.
is what he needs. Like the
And many
question in his
times,
mind is
many
like,
times a user doesn't even understand what the app really does. Like they get the gist of it a little bit with App Store screenshots, but then they do not. When they are onboarded, if the onboarding flow is not does not clarify what the app does, many times the user will be puzzled, and because of that, the retention will be lower, and even before retention, the conversion will be just suboptimal. And also for on the user side, that could have been an app that helps him, but he doesn't know enough, he doesn't trust it enough. And so I would say it's a lot of it is also about removing friction, and on top of even before strong psychological principles that entice users to go ahead and start trials or convert.
okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. And you touched a little bit about when talking about this, you touched a couple of metrics such as retention, conversions, and so on. What are the must track numbers when we're talking about onboarding? What should the
Yeah.
developer track so he knows that okay, I'm improving this or not, I'm seeing results or not? I'm very data driven, so that's why I'm asking this question.
Yes. Yes. So what matters a lot is open up to start trial. Back in the day with our app, we managed to have an open up to start trial. We started maybe at 15, 20, and we managed to drive that until 33%. And when you do the math, when you have a 33% open up to start trial, that is very, very high. To be totally fair, our app was business was in the business niche, so it also depends a lot on the niches. But that doesn't mean that you should never stop iterating and never stop improving, Kaizen style, Japanese style. I mean, on it. And then the other one then is a trial to paid. And so when you have, for example, like us, we did have a 33% and then 33%. So one third of the users would start the trial, they would end up paying as well, and then 33% of the user would open it up, would start the trial. Those are very, very solid number. If you do the math, that amounts to around 10%. And so when you have a customer who, like 10% of the customers who just open the app the first time end up being paying customers, that is a very, very, very good number. And so these are the two main ones that we did use. I know that other companies use other ones, but those are the ones that for us make sense as business owners in the app space. And then every single screen. So let's say that an onboarding flow is made by, we call them steps basically. Let's say that an onboarding flow can be 5 steps, can be 20 steps. Some apps go crazy and they do quizzes with 70 steps. And there are reasons for that. But you want to have analytics, some sort of analytics. We use Mixpanel. There are others available as well. And then you want to do a lot of A/B testing with remote config. And so you want to basically split users and say, for example, okay, these 400 users today are seeing A, and these 400 users are seeing B. And then you have to be careful though, because you cannot change, let's say, 5 onboarding steps at a time, because then you don't know if it's like step number 5, change like delivering results, or step number 2, delivering results. So what we did was basically every day we would show, we change only one onboarding step for a couple of days, let's say. And once we did have enough statistical significance, so hundreds or thousands of users who saw the same onboarding step flow, let's say 10 steps, but step number 2 was different in crowd number A versus crowd number B.
Yeah.
And so, and then we started looking at the data and saying, okay, this is driving better results. This is driving a minor uplift. But then this is also a business made of small uplifts of 1, 2, 3% that stack together at the end of the day make up like the whole difference between making millions and not. And so this was our relentless focus. So we would come up with an hypothesis, and that's why screens design is so useful, because it allows you to study what other winners are doing and other fresh new apps are doing, even in different niches. And they allow you to say, oh, why don't we test this? Oh, we could do that. We can try that. And so you come up with your own hypothesis, you have your own onboarding flow. And then once you have your onboarding flow and you have enough users, you start showing start only changing one step at a time. So you can start from step number 1, you show it to 400 users, and 400 users step number B. And then you have test and control, test and control. And so this allows you at the end of the day to change your numbers from 20% open up to start trial to 33%. And that makes a huge difference at the end of the day, because it allows you to
Yeah.
be more profitable, spend more money on ads, and yeah.
That's amazing. Like in the last couple of minutes, you basically put together a framework of improving the business of a mobile application,
Yeah,
focused on
this is
improving
what worked for
onboarding.
us. Yeah, we had to learn it the hard way, and this is what worked for us. And also, we realized very quickly that the temptation is always too low. Let's compare onboarding flow A to onboarding flow B, and onboarding flow A is like 10 steps, and onboarding flow B is 20 steps, and they're totally different. And it is a temptation, and you could do that in a way. But on the other side as well, once you have something that's start to seem like it's working, then you have to, optimize, like crafting a statue. You cannot jump on a totally different onboarding flow. You need to test the single steps, and this is how. Then you're totally
What?
free to test something totally different, but you have to do it with your mind in the right
Yeah.
place,
How
because otherwise you start to
you were talking?
hypothesize. Yeah, because like I was saying, otherwise, sorry, then you start to hypothesize, oh, it's because now I put step number 3 or step number 5, but you don't really know. You only know how users at the end of the day convert or not convert, but you cannot really assess with certainty what is driving it.
So that's why you need to do it like small changes. What would
Yes.
be what would be these changes? Like as small as the copy, like images, or complete new screens. Like I put a new screen focused on like social proof, and I test
Yes.
that.
Well, yes, even there, I am not a fan of those people who simply like say, like, for example, change a button from orange to red and they say that this is a test. In my opinion, this is not enough. A screen is enough, and it's a good size
Yeah.
as far as a test, but I would not simply go crazy like testing, a different font for the button, for example, because unless you're a huge app like Duolingo or
Yeah.
something like that, you don't have enough users who come through your app in order to test that. So
Yeah.
it's like a meal, I would call it. You
Yeah.
cannot eat like kilos of stuff, but you should also not, go for the smallest insignificant
Yeah.
details. You should test one screen at a time, and you should have hypothesis. And this is why screens design is so useful,
Yeah.
because you have hypotheses that come and say, okay, I will test this screen that has these different psychological principles, and I will put it there. And yeah, and then the numbers will drive new
Yeah.
tests, new hypotheses that you can
Yeah.
come up with.
Yeah, I think it's about the low hanging fruits. So unless
Yeah,
we optimized everything else and we ended up like without any other ideas to optimize, that we are trying to optimize the color or the font, like that means
yeah,
that we are huge enough. Like Duolingo can afford that because most probably
Yeah,
they optimized everything else. But for us
exactly.
indie developers, I think there are so
Yeah,
many more opportunities for the bigger changes other than the colors and so on,
yeah,
like on the psychology, on
absolutely.
the length.
On the
And
design
speaking
as well, on
about
the UX, yeah.
the length, you touched on this. Like some apps have 2 3 steps, some apps go as crazy as 30 plus steps.
Yeah.
What do you think is a good length, and what does it depend on?
The
Because I
good
know that
length
the
is
answer
the one
is
that
depend.
Mixpanel tells you drives the higher conversions. But let's say, for example, in the fitness space, dieting space, there are apps that can go up to 80 onboarding steps, like Noom, for
Well,
example, these type of apps. Yeah, why do they do that? Because they try to build a quiz and they tell you, well, you give me all this information. Number one, you're like we make you committed to this app, and number two, we can offer you a better experience because by giving us data on how tall you are, what weight do you have, age, preferences, and so on and so forth, issues that you have currently, we can personalize more the experience. And the two things go hand in hand, basically. The more data they have, the more committed you are, the more data they get. And so at the end of the day, this drives good numbers for them. But it totally makes sense for someone to come up with an hypothesis and say, I will make a new concept with only 7 onboarding steps and make it work. Uh, that's why I would say to never to study from the best, learn the psychological principles that do exist since centuries and do work since
mhm,
the beginning of time. But at the
mhm.
same time, you should come up with sometimes with your own ideas, with your own tests, with your own niches, with your own angle. That's why I always advocate against copycat apps who simply do not put their brain
Yeah.
on it. They don't come up with anything new, and they simply go and copy the others. First of all, you're gonna have problems with Meta. You're gonna have problems with Apple. You're gonna have problems with the apps that you clone. But at the same time, you're doing something that is not so creative, and that, in my opinion, um, will not lead to good results long term for you as well.
Yeah, I agree. Speaking about psychology, I know that how important psychology is in the onboarding flows and conversions. What would be the top 3 principles that someone that doesn't know a lot about this would learn about and would benefit a lot if they implement it?
Yes. Well, the psychological principles we have. If you go to Screensdesign, we have built the onboarding radar for that, and we kind of like the goal for many apps should be to have as large as an onboarding radar as possible as a test. And of course, like I always say, mixed panel or whatever analytics you're using is what matters. So I would say that it is very, very important. Important. One thing,
If you have
uh,
anything to share, feel free to share on the screen right now.
yeah. So these are the most famous app, but let's give it a random shuffle. Okay. So for example, this is a fasting app with 15 onboarding steps. As you can see, this app, for example, doesn't go too crazy with 100 onboarding steps, but they do a couple things well.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, one thing is friction, very, very important. So, a lot of people, especially who are data driven, they will want to ask people to log in, give me your phone, give me your email, uh, and users who have simply are giving you an opportunity uh, do not like if you tell them their height, if you ask them for their height, in order to personalize better the app, then it makes sense to ask for that kind of stuff in a quiz. But if you simply ask for the mobile phone in order to have the mobile phone in case they drop off, people are gonna be pissed off. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's gonna cause friction. And you don't wanna do that
Mm-hmm.
because every second, every download is very expensive in terms of either ASO or ads or whatever.
I think it's
And
about unnecessary friction, right? So
exactly,
avoid
unnecessary.
unnecessary.
Yes, yes. Friction is unnecessary by default because if you actually ask for, oh, why do you want to fast? And you make people realize why they're doing that, that's not
Hmm.
going to be friction. That's going to be, the user understanding why they're taking the next steps,
Great.
downloading and using and paying for your app. And it's also going to allow you as an app developer to personalize better the app for them and the onboarding flow and the paywall at the end of the day.
Hmm.
So it's going to be a
About
win-win situation. People are going to
reinforcing.
understand why you're asking for that kind of stuff and be okay with that.
Hmm.
So it's really important. A couple of other things. Personalization, absolutely great. If you make the user, for example, even like, okay, asking their name, I would
Yep.
say that is neutral because on one way you're asking the name, on the other side, on the onboarding flow, you can say, hey, Vadim, uh, this is
Yeah.
why we are doing this for you. You
Yeah.
know, you're not anymore a user. You kind
Yeah.
of like start to have a relationship with the app. I see that also Riverside here where we're recording does this, like calls it Vadim Studio. You know, it's like makes it yours, makes it personalized, and it's a win at the end of the day. So
Yeah.
that's kind of important.
Yeah.
Then
People
of
love
course,
be hearing their name like that. That's true.
yeah, people love hearing
Psychology.
their names for sure. Um, I mean, as I was saying before, another thing is also to try to be original. This is also something that I push. I push for. Um, like, okay, this is Shazam is already a big app, but I would argue that like some stuff that we did for our app Boost Up Social was very original. Like we had an animation of a triangle, and we were saying like the corner stuff of a successful presence on social media, and it was like
Okay.
basically hashtags back in the day. AI chat, like AI chat, and then we were saying, I don't remember which one was the
Yeah.
third, like maybe captions or something like that. And we were animating it like a
Mhm.
triangle, and that was very innovative. And we saw that that brought us like 3 or 4% more
Wow, nice.
open up
People
to
love like charts and graphs and stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly. But yeah, exactly. Charts and graph are the basics, but then on top of that, you put your own creativity,
Yeah.
and you build something really unique. Also, because you have to consider that people these days they probably open, I don't know, couple of apps a month, 3, 4 apps a month. So in a year, they've seen dozens and dozens.
Yeah.
And if you can come up with something truly new that makes people say wow, then clearly with the right testing framework in place is gonna lead exceptional result because you actually are exceptional because you actually are doing something new. So that's also something I advocate for and I recommend. And the last one, give me another one maybe,
Ooh,
and I will tell you another one. uh Look, social proof is kind of important.
that's
Another
what I
one.
was looking for.
Yeah, social proof is really important. For example, this app could do better on it.
Mhm.
What we did, for example, in Boost Up Social, we had Instagram style stories, circles. You know the circles that are at the
Yes.
top of Instagram with the stories, those ones. And we basically rebuilt the same thing. And each of the stories actually inside our paywall was a user speaking well and recommending our app. And
Hmm.
so we rebuilt that kind of layer of
Hmm.
Instagram stories, but we did that with people who recommended our app. And on Instagram, we would follow and talk to our users, so to some of our users, and we were rewarding people for. Taking screenshots and speaking positively about the app, then we would capture that and put it inside our onboarding flow. And this was
Nice.
very important because we were actually challenging our new users and saying, "Don't believe, tap to find out." And then people would have this kind of like row of Instagram style story circles, and and this also drove amazing results for us.
That's social proof plus familiarity because they are
Yes.
familiar with the UI of Instagram. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and I would recommend don't only stop at showing some fake reviews or something like that. If you actually have the good reviews, and you should absolutely go and get them, give proof. Try to make it for the user that, oh, actually his proof is, he has the proof that of what they are telling. You know, maybe I would like even lean into video recording these days of actual users like recommending the app or stuff like that. Maybe I would have a video of like you're very good with videography, Vadim, of like you recording yourself, then refreshing the app store and showing that the reviews are actually, are actually there on the app store. I would not go for the cheap Shopify 2016 tricks of like simply putting some reviews out there and people don't really believe, maybe with some, AI
Yeah.
generated profile pictures that nobody believes in, because that actually can reduce your conversion rates.
You lose the
Yeah,
trustworthiness.
I would try as much as possible to get even a couple dozen people only at the beginning to actually like the app and get the proof that they actually like it and then display that.
Nice. Perfect. That sounds amazing. Now that we're here on Screens Design,
Yeah,
why don't you show us a couple of examples of good onboarding flows? So not
yeah.
only should we look at web psychology, but I mean on the radar, but on the actual
Hmm.
screen, so we can
Yeah,
understand exactly like
let's
what
do
does
that.
social proof look like in an onboarding screen, or what does the personalization or the land.
Let's do that. So what I am doing right now, I am filtering for apps that make significant revenue, at least 50,000 a month. And then I am sorting by the newest ones. And and so, well, a couple of like, so if we talk about good onboarding flows, you see, these apps actually are from the same studio. Look, hi, welcome. And then here, hi, welcome. This is
Nice.
from
They are
the
using a template.
same app studio. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But these people are doing well. You see, like they have a couple of apps. They're nailing something. They're either nailing the onboarding flow. It's very simple actually, but interesting. Yeah, I mean, these kind of niches, they're playing more like the niche ASO game of understanding what type of keywords are trending and then building apps on top of it. And then the onboarding flow is, then the onboarding flow, they probably use the same here as well. As you can see, I knew it.
Yeah.
They're using the same one. Can work. In my opinion, that's not the best way to go about the business. But yeah, and always
What do you
remember that
mean?
when you see, I mean, because if it's cookie cutter and you apply the same onboarding
Hmm.
flow to multiple apps,
Yeah.
I would say that you're leaving profits on the table at the end of the day
Okay.
because you're really not crafting you're not creating a new Duolingo, or you're not creating
Yeah.
like really a new banger app. It can work maybe at the beginning when you want to test niches. So
Hmm.
you build a neutral onboarding flow and you just want to test niches and test
Yeah.
if an app can have potential.
Okay.
And then if you get signals that this app is a winner, then you can start crafting on top of it. Because you always remember that sometimes some apps are purely organic and they make like 65K in profits or minus Apple fees or something like that. But some other apps maybe are not even profitable. So revenue is one metric, but then profits, there is no way to know because clearly profits, there is no way to know because you have to, account for like team size, ads, and so on and so forth. So yeah, I would not take those. I would take those only as a good app, as good onboarding flows to test niches, not as good onboarding flows, period. Yeah. Also, the
Okay. That's
design is a
that's
little bit
amazing.
Androidy. I know that Vadim, you have good design taste, so you can see like this. It's a little bit dated, it's like nothing new, nothing special. This app already much more interesting. So photo editor app, as you can
Hmm.
see, this is like the usual. This is the Blinkist trial
Hmm.
style. They invented it. They were say basically reassuring users on what was going on with the trial. So today you start the trial. In 2 days, we will
Okay.
remind you before your trial ends, so you're safe. And
Hmm.
then in 3 days, the subscription will start unless you cancel before.
That's also like
So
removing uncertainty and showing
Yeah,
clarity. Like
exactly.
this is exactly what's going to happen. Like we're not gonna.
Exactly.
Nice. By the way,
Removing
do you know that
uncertainty,
can
creating
you scroll?
trust.
Do you know that the enable free trial toggle is already banned?
Uh,
You see there is a toggle enable free trial that is Apple already doesn't allow these kind of things.
oh yeah, for sure. But
Yeah.
I am sure that many people play on the margins of the game with remote config or something, or maybe when we recorded this app, it was when it was
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
still available. So Apple doesn't allow this anymore.
It's like previous week they started
Ah,
rejecting
from
it.
the previous week. Okay,
Yeah.
something new. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Then definitely possible that we recorded it maybe a month or two ago, and so
Yeah.
these are still possible.
Is there any app that you think like nailed it? Like some popular application that you think like they've done like an amazing job at onboarding?
All right, then we need to change the filters here. Go for something bigger. Let's see. I will scroll and tell you when I see an app that
Yeah.
this is very good. For example,
Focus
this is very
friend.
good.
Yeah.
This is using the new type of stuff like mascots. Mascots are
Okay.
pretty big because they're friendly, because they're it's like having a little teddy bear.
Yeah.
It's it also creates a striking visual image in your memory,
Yeah.
um, rather than a you know an abstract icon or something like that. But this is really good
Yeah.
for sure.
I believe this is super good.
But as
I
you can
don't
see,
know if
also this
it's
type of design
very
is, yeah.
if it's
And as you
very
can see, they're doing
recreatable.
something creative. They're something fresh. They're doing something new. Look at the button. Like it's not the button that you usually see. And I think that people this day appreciate it. And it's also
Yeah.
what makes you as a developer want to wake up and create new stuff, rather than, you know, copying what everyone else is doing blindly. Taking inspiration is one thing, but then coming up with your own stuff is gonna lead not only better profits, but
Yeah.
a more rewarding experience for you as a developer and marketer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like the more you do it, like the better you're gonna get. And at the beginning, I
But
think
also
it's
look at this, for
important to
example. Yeah, look at this
paywall.
paywall.
Wow.
You cannot do it on you cannot do it on the usual platforms who give you cookie cutter paywalls. You see, this is something truly creative.
I'm wondering um, how effective is this fancy stuff compared to something basic that is proven to work. You know, like I'm thinking about here, like the concept of we see always these crazy good looking websites with 3D with animations that are just really good to look at, but they're not converting
Yes,
very well. And then we
yes,
see businesses that are converting well and are focused on revenue that have a template that from 2010 with big red text saying like buy now or something like that, and it's
sure.
performing much better. So
True.
I'm
You can
thinking
test
here
it
as
though.
well,
The
like
great thing is the great thing, like what you're saying is true, but it's usually driven by web design agencies who are not focused, like performance driven.
yeah,
What you can do, the good thing about this business is, and any business, even with the web business, you can do it, but is that you can test like we were saying before the 400 people see A, 400 people say B,
yeah,
so nothing is stopping you from having a couple hundred, couple thousand users see a different paywall, isolate the step, and then see how it works for you. But you have to do it well also. Because let's say that you create an app like this. And an app like this works because it's crafty, it's new, it's fresh, it's creative, it's unique. And then you come up here at the paywall step, and then you come up with something super cookie cutter, super modern, like
yeah.
Arial and no blue button. Uh, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure about that. Uh, but yeah, I agree with you. There are apps that do well,
Mm-hmm.
But you would be surprised because I speak sometimes to some apps that are on screens design, and then you see numbers like 80K revenue and stuff like that. Then maybe sometimes they spend 70K, 75K on ads. So
Mm-hmm.
revenue is not always profit. Revenue is like one metric that, of course, is needed to understand what kind of apps are doing well. Um, but in my opinion, the real edge, if you want to have a competitive advantage, you cannot simply copy paste what thousands and thousands of apps are gonna do, because
You
also
got
you're gonna
ex-
have so many competitors jumping up, and because they're using the same framework.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. You gotta experiment, A/B test, see what works best.
No, this is critical. Without A/B testing, like you have to have strong hypotheses, you have to have strong opinions, but then you
Mm-hmm.
have to pass those through a very strict and rational
Mm-hmm.
testing framework. It's
Yeah.
crucial.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get.
and you have to continuously improve, because maybe you go from 22 to 28%, but then you can bring that to 31%.
Yeah.
Open up to start trial, for example. So you should
That's
never
exactly
stop.
what I'm going to do, like after we record this podcast, because recently I launched a new onboarding flow for one of my applications, and I think I'm going to go back to start A/B testing some different screens.
You
So
have to, and
that's
the
that's my
greatest thing.
takeaway from today.
No, absolutely, and you want to do it with remote config, so you are able to have your analytics platform, Xpanel or whatever you're using,
Yeah,
and then with remote config you can decide what type of what step of the onboarding flow to change
works.
in order to isolate, in order to understand if this is better than that. Another one very good app is female oriented, was Starla for sure.
Yeah, nice. I
Uh,
like the minimalistic
yeah,
way.
this was one of the new apps that came up, and let's see. Uh,
I like when the data input is split into like one input per screen. Like it's not just a
yeah,
form with 10 inputs, like it's just one input, very focused.
yeah, very clean, very simple, doesn't scare away users.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see they give you the benefit, like they ask you for the date of birth, but they don't only ask for the date of birth, they tell you to align with with the
Yeah.
stars. I mean, this is very female oriented app
That's
who
another
do believe in the.
psychology. Like that's another psychology in play. Like whenever you're asking something, you're going to have like extremely
Exactly.
better results if you just say the
Yes.
reason. That
Well
was
said,
tested.
man.
Like if you are in a supermarket and want to cut the line, if you just say, "Can I cut in front of you?" Like you're going to get most probably no. But if you just
Yeah,
give it
yeah.
any reason, like, "Can I cut the
Yeah.
line because my kid is outside?" Like you're going to get yes. And
Yes,
it doesn't matter
exactly.
the reason. It's just to be. It has to be there.
Yes. No, 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 absolutely. Agreed. Um, where you were born. Yeah, here they probably could test like an improvement, I would say.
Yeah.
Could you tell me where you were born again? Like you were saying correctly before, Vadim, they're not telling you the
Why?
benefit.
Yeah.
Exactly. They're not telling you why. So this is the perfect occasion of the framework we laid before, right? You have one screen of the onboarding flow. You need to have remote config. Uh, and then you test one like this. Could you tell me where you were born so that we can blah blah?
Yeah.
And then I would test, 500
Yeah.
users, or 2,000 users, 2,000 users, something like that, and see what makes more people, what leads to better conversions.
Perfect.
Okay, so okay. Time again here again, but don't be tempted to test two together, right? So
Okay.
the
Yeah.
moment that test number one is over, then you can move here and do the same thing we spoke about.
Hmm.
Yeah, this is like tricky. Okay, one big suggestion, if you want to do this, I don't like to do this, to be honest with you, but I do understand that with all privacy, people, apps sometimes want to understand what's driving results. Be very careful here. You need to randomize these results, because if you don't
Hmm.
randomize these results, people are gonna be tempted on a statistical basis to tap on Facebook or Twitter just because the thumb is there,
Yeah.
but you're gonna get a huge
Yeah.
false positives
Yeah.
because people with the thumb are used to click in the middle or something like that.
Yeah.
So they're gonna either tap Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube, but not because they are telling you the truth. You have to account for the fact that 95% of people are gonna lie. And
Yeah.
so you need to randomize in order to clean up the results. And only if you randomize, then yeah, over thousands and thousands of clicks, you might get the truth.
And by the
Yeah.
way, this screen, just to mention to people, like this screen is important only if you're running ads on different platforms, or
Yeah. Yeah.
not only
Exactly.
ads, but influencer
Y-
sponsorships and so on, because this is
Yes.
purely to track the performance of your
Yes.
acquisition
Yes.
channels. If you don't
Yes.
do that, like
Yes.
don't put it here. Like it, you don't need this
Yeah,
data.
yeah, obviously. Yeah, well said, well said. Yes. Yeah, here calculating. I mean, they're showing you that they're
Calculating
doing a
is like
job
a
for you.
progress, something very
Yeah.
common, right?
Yes. I mean, they're showing you that they use your data in order to personalize your experience, in order to make it more valuable for you, and that it's not something that they simply tell the same person,
Even though like
all
behind the
people.
scenes, most of them are just doing sleep 2 seconds, show a loading indicator, and then
Yes. Yeah, it's true. Maybe like, oftentimes you want to have that running for 5 seconds because it makes really it makes users feel that you're really crunching data,
yeah,
that you're really doing a job. And so
yeah,
even if the results are rating 1 second, sometimes you want to have 5 seconds. I mean, it doesn't
yeah,
cost the users much, so I'm
yeah. And you can
I'm
also
all in
test
for that.
it.
Yeah. And okay, science, sun. They show you basically this is a pre-paywall probably something like that.
What do you think?
No.
I just saw here the rating the application. Do you have any opinions
hmm
on that? Asking the user to rate the app in the paywall.
Look, for us it worked.
Hmm.
For us it worked. So does make sense, but maybe what's working like 3 months, 6 months ago,
Hmm.
stops working nowadays. So you always have to be a little bit like, careful and do not assume, because these are kind of like tactical tricks, more
Yeah.
than psychological principles that are, valid for hundreds of centuries. These are
Hmm.
tactical stuff. Like you were saying before, Apple changes a rule, you cannot do that
Yeah.
anymore.
Hmm.
So you tactically can make sense. For us, it did make sense. I think it still holds. Uh, but make sure you revisit these assumptions once a month or something like that.
Hmm. Okay.
So and always be careful because maybe it worked for Starlight, works for us, but doesn't work for apps in other niches. So always worth a test, but never take it as a certainty. It's always an hypothesis and testing game at the end of the day. I
Okay.
mean, with good
Perfect.
ideas, with good ideas that make sense. That's why I wouldn't like simply, test the screens green just for the sake of testing it green. Doesn't make sense,
Yeah.
right? It
Yeah.
has to have something that has a reason behind.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
here
true.
they tell you, okay, science. Okay, they give you bright mind, play for hard, curious, and engage. Oh, they rising. Okay, they give you. Okay, after the data, they tell you who you are, basically. Okay, they give you proof of the number crunching. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, and that's why they make you happy by telling you how great you are here
Yeah.
and how successful your future is gonna be as a
I
woman,
totally
and
agree.
then they ask you, "Do you like me?" So that's why they place it here. Um, can we gather anonymous data to better include self-growth into your day? Okay, so of course
Okay.
here
This
they give you the
APK.
reason, yeah, and now they show you the pro. Okay, now they show
Okay.
you the pro. And basically here there's a paywall. Yeah.
Okay. Yearly and
Yeah.
month. Okay.
Yeah. And as we were saying before, for example, here, uh, yeah, there's like this kind of review. It's probably animated. That's why Screensdesign is so great because you can check the recording.
Hmm.
So doesn't rotate. No, it doesn't rotate actually. Yeah. Maybe actually the review is a little bit like here is nothing, it's nothing
Too
super
much.
creative. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also there is a lot of text.
yeah.
I think there is room for testing here. Maybe they've tested it so much that they know that this works better for them. But I would have expected something like, rotating reviews or something like that. Maybe
Hmm.
this one works better, but definitely worth a test.
Yeah.
And yeah,
That,
here they
this
give you the
this
two
is a really
options.
good one. I like the flow, and
Yeah, and also one
it's
good
way
one good
more
tip. Yeah.
reproducible compared to the focus friend, because that one like is crazy. Like
Yeah.
the normal developer would not be able to recreate it, but this one I think anyone can learn and
Yeah.
implement some of the things from here.
Agreed. Agreed. Also, one good tip from Steve Young, a great guy. He has a good podcast as well. Is to use decoy. So if you want users to subscribe to monthly or weekly or yearly, for example, make sure that one of the plans has a very outrageously high price that you don't
Mhm.
want users to convert. So
Okay.
users feel, okay, this price is like outrageous. I'm making a good deal by selecting
Yeah.
the yearly or the weekly or the
Yeah.
whatever, the other option. So and this works surprisingly well as well. We've tested it. We had a
Nice.
lifetime basically for 350,
Hmm.
which did make sense because our app was 9.99 a month. So if you make the math, some people, let's say that you're a business owner, our app was really rich in value. It had like 4 or 5 things inside that would really help users. But we would offer a lifetime paid upfront on the onboarding flow. And this
Hmm.
one worked well for people who maybe learned from a friend that the app could be valuable to them, and so
Yeah.
they knew that they could subscribe to the lifetime um, and be good, because they have a warm intro to it. But for other users, it
Hmm.
serves as a, oh, whoa, 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 350 lifetime. No, no, I'm choosing the monthly for whatever, 15 a month or something, or 12 a month. It's a good deal.
Yeah.
And so this would also remove friction and smooth out the conversion as well.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah, I agree. Totally agree. Well, Alex, why don't you show us how we can create these kind of designs? Because I myself, I'm an indie hacker. I can totally build anything out there. Now with AI, like I can do this super fast, but I don't have like the best designing skills. And this leads me to, in a lot of cases, my pain, my problem is that I feel lost. I feel like I don't know where to even start implementing onboarding, like what to even look for, how to design, how to implement it. I mean, from the designing perspective, from the UI UX. And I had this problem like previous week while I was live. I basically spent 1 or 2 hours messing around with different things myself, and I didn't like what I was building. Then that evening, I saw on Twitter somebody tweeted about the new tool from Screensdesign, the AI Builder. I gave it a try, and to be honest, like I instantly loved what I created there, and I implemented the results, the onboarding screens like in no time in my application, and that gave me another boost of energy. Like, oh my god, this is exactly what I was looking for.
Yeah.
So I really like that feature. Can you please show us, and let's go ahead and generate some onboarding screens for an app.
Of course, why not? So, 4 or 5 weeks ago, we launched the Create thing. So now Screensdesign has the library where you can go study, come up with hypotheses, new apps, new niches, do market research. But then we also are offering to our clients a way to generate very powerful onboarding flows that are based on the principles that we learned from 2,300 apps, winning apps on the App Store. And so if you go here or you go to Screens Design slash create, you can you can create new apps. And you will be prompted if you're a new. Now I'm logged in, so don't be scared. If you are gonna go through it as a new user, you will see the landing page, and then you will be able to try it. Actually, we give 10 free credits to anybody, and you can test it out how it works for you. And you will see that it's so much better than many other players like Google Stitch, UX Pilot. It's like this is like a totally different level. And but for example, let's create a new project. So let's say that I want to start from scratch, but you can also, we are also moving into helping new apps that already exist to
Yeah.
create new features, new parts of the app, new boring screens, new onboarding flows, and new paywalls. And we are aligning it to your own style. But let's say that we want to start a new app. And Vadim, what kind of app do we create? Do we create an app for women who want to know about the horoscope or football
Yes,
apps,
let's
or I
do
don't know.
that. Let's do horoscope.
Okay.
I tried to launch an app in that niche and Apple rejected it, so maybe I need
Okay.
to improve the onboarding screens.
Okay. Horoscope app for women uh, who let's say 50 plus. Like, do we give it
Yeah,
a niche or do we keep it broad?
let's niche down.
50 plus women. Okay. Uh, all right. Then create project. And it will take a little bit of time for the users who are live, not too much, but let's go crazy a little bit with the onboarding flows and paywall steps. And then here, as you can see, you can already select what type of principles you want to use in your own app.
Perfect.
Let's select these ones, for example, and then you can refine. Of course, it's not, this is only a start. uh, the app loads, and we come up with some very good concepts for you as far as the design of it. And like I say, there are apps that are a little bit faster at the beginning and they immediately show you stuff. But what we realize that it is totally worth it to spend 30 seconds waiting for our system to generate stuff because the results are mind blowing. And so, as you can see, we're actually working on displaying these things already, but let's simply go with the number one. Then you hear your users can go and try it for themselves. But or you wanna
Oh,
select
that's
something?
that's good. Yeah, that's good. Let's go.
Okay. And so here, now the app creates one screen at a time,
Okay.
and you will see that the results are coherent between each other. We are not simply taking LLMs here and telling generate an app. There are a lot of optimizations in the background that we use that we have discovered, and this is what gives us an edge. You will see that the screens are coherent between each other. You will see that the screens are follow the same style, and the logic
I
is
already can see things appearing on the screen. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure
yeah.
like the result is going to speak for itself about the quality
I
of the
hope so,
tool.
man, because I'm pumping it
And
up so much. Yeah, but as you can see, like this is a 50 plus app, and we already like generate this first image
wow,
of a woman who's like in her silver years reading a book. Very, very interesting, right? And
wow,
as you can see, like the buttons do make sense between each other. Here you can scroll.
nice.
If you tap on it, you can scroll, so you can see actually how the app is. Not only that, but we have a prototype feature, and we have an
Mhm.
auto prototype. So for example, this screen is not the best, and I would recommend you, for example, select it and say, oh, I don't like this screen, make it simpler, like split it into different look. It's not even that bad at the end of the day, but like we were saying before,
Yeah.
worth testing if simplicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like asking for one thing at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So as you can see, the loading bar is coherent and it's
Yeah.
increasing correctly. Here it's very, very nice. Like the before after, these things work like a charm, and it's
It's
beautiful.
like
Like
some
before after.
interaction, right? Like
Yes,
some
with the interaction, it's beautiful. Yes. I'm not sure if it works right now with the HTML. I think not. But once you then transpose it on Cloud Code or on Codex on Xcode, it will be able to do it, no problem. And here so these apps, these screens are actually HTMLs. They're not images. So they're
Mm-hmm.
already code that then you can translate to, for example, like you use React Native, but it also works for people who want to go the Swift route.
Mm-hmm. And
Yes,
that part I think is underrated. Um, like the results here you can see for yourself that are amazing. But what impressed me the most is the ability to export this in HTML format so
but look at
that
that also.
Cloud Code,
Yes,
Cloud Code understands the code. It doesn't just look at
absolutely,
pictures, it understands the code. And
absolutely.
mapping from HTML to React Native, for me it was like
A
so
breeze.
good. Like it was
Yes,
pixel perfect, like everything worked,
yes,
and Cloud Code managed to transcribe
yes,
everything in React Native amazingly.
yes. We are also big fans of Cloud Code here. We use it a lot. Look at the animation, so beautiful.
Yeah,
Like already, this is
nice.
like an actual HTML animation that then you can transpose in your app, and this is like wow,
Yeah,
you know. And here it's doing the same thing we were speaking about before. I
yeah.
didn't prompt it anything, but as you can see, it's like doing the analyzing,
Building,
like we were saying
customization,
before. Yes, yes.
the
Yeah, I think
paywall,
yes.
discount, nice.
Yes, yes, and then you can simply prompt it stuff. Uh, yes, as you can see, it has created the screens 6, 9, 10, yeah, and two paywalls. Basically, two alternative paywalls for you
Hmm.
to also test. I
Nice.
mean, what I would do here is then say, for example, select one screens, reference it, and then um, for example, add as a reference. As you can see, you can simply click
Yep.
add as a reference, and then you can say generate different variations of this. Boom. And it
Nice.
takes that as exact screen and it
Hmm.
goes and with the coherent style of the app will generate new stuff. This is why I say uh, this is only the beginning when you start and you create the onboarding flow, but this is a canvas where you can generate hundreds of screens if you want,
And not
and have
only onboarding, right?
not only onboarding, you can generate like actually the parts of the app. You have then zones. When the app here becomes bigger, you can add screens to a zone in order to have everything in a tidy order. Let's say that you have, the app has three feature areas. You can
Hmm.
and you can order them this way.
I also love the prototyping that makes it interactive. Um, the
Yes,
auto
yes, yeah,
linking
yeah. We
of
will
buttons.
absolutely, absolutely. So I can show the prototyping feature as well. We can click here and then basically you can go here and then connect the screens together. What it can do actually is
Auto.
also I'll do the auto. Yeah, auto
Yeah,
is easier. Clearly, if you have a lot of screens, you
map.
need to yes. Uh, uh, let's see. But I want to do one thing before. I'm not sure if it will work, but we will test because I see that it did it. Uh, because I only set different variations.
Yeah.
Let's say simplify. Let's say, for example, add as a reference, and I say simplify, asking only the name, uh, asking name, date of birth, and time in three different steps. Let's see. I'm not sure if it will work, but I'm ready to fail here. I mean, we are improving it every week, so if it doesn't work, by next week it will be better. But I'm up for the challenge. Okay. In the meantime, uh, okay, auto prototype. select screens. Okay, I only select the screens that I want because clearly I can have, different screens. So it only asks me for the screens that I want. And here I do connect. Boom. And now it will generate the prototype that you can send to anybody or test on your phone,
Yeah.
because it will generate a link and
Hmm.
the link you can open it on your phone.
In browser,
It's
right?
amazing. Yeah.
You can open it in browser because it's HTML, right?
You can open it in browser. You can open it on the browser of your phone. Yes, and it will look 92% accurate compared to how the app will actually be. For example, look
Nice.
how good this is already. Man, bingo, right?
Wow.
Yes. Man, it's crazy. And
That's
consider we
cool.
only took like we only took few minutes or seconds to do it.
Yeah.
Like you can go so fast. You can test so much. Uh, yeah. So this gives you already, as you can see, a 90% accurate
Yeah.
understanding of how your app will look like, right?
That's amazing.
So, yeah, yeah. And if you do share, you can send to friends, you can send to your colleagues, to your employees, to yourself. You simply it creates a link, boom, you copy it, it's done. Anyone can access it. Yeah,
Perfect.
amazing. Yeah.
That that
Oh,
yeah.
look,
No.
it worked. Actually, it worked. Look, look, look.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Look, it worked. So we asked it, like we learned from start. This is why I say the library is so cool because you go to the library, you get some inspiration, right? And then what you do is you come up with it because we saw this one, right? And it was all in the same screen, right, Vadim?
Yeah.
And then we say, oh, but I saw on Starla, I studied it from the library that maybe we can test to separate stuff to
Yeah.
make it easier, right? Especially because this app is for 50 plus users.
Yeah.
And so here we have
You see,
we have
the date already gives a reason, so it applies some
yes.
psychology that we discussed about.
Yes, yes. This is the powerful thing about screens design. Also, if you go on the right tab here, we have ideas. It's a little
Yeah.
bit hidden, but you can click on it, and then you can we generate ideas based on your app.
Hmm.
As you can see here, it's already suggesting, for example, to start to generate a dashboard. So this is already, we are going inside the features of the app. If you want to build a full app, you can do
Hmm.
it. We are really strong right now in the onboarding flow because this is how people know us as
Hmm.
of now. But in the future, we will also help our users generate full apps inside.
Perfect. That's
So
really
this is only
exciting.
the start, but I always recommend to start from the onboarding flow and paywall if the app is new. Why? Because then you can decide the colors in a simple way. You can go about deciding on your copywriting, your psychology, your style. Then once you have that, you can delve into developing the features and the settings page and the dashboards and all of that.
Perfect. Well, like I love it. But the only thing I want to ask you, I
Yeah.
know that new users get 10 credits for free.
Yes.
Do our subscribers get any deals from you?
Let's do this. Let's do this. Your subscribers, if they email us, they can email me at like alex@screensdesign.com. Um, and they tell me I come from Vadim. Not only Vadim, you can offer them 50% off the first month because you're gonna be one of our affiliates. But if they also email me, I will give them let's say 20 credits on top of it.
Oh, that's amazing. All
So
right.
if
So
they
just
come from
so
this video, not only they can get 50% off for the first month, but I will give them 20 credits until, let's say, but let's give it a limit because otherwise,
yeah.
until February 28, 2026.
Okay, I'm going to try my best to launch this video as soon as possible so people can take advantage of this. But the 50% off for your first
Yes, the
month is going
50%
to
off will
be
stay. Yes, the 50% off will stay unlimitedly as long as we exist. But this special offer, as far as credits, we are doing it now. You're asking me about it. I'm ready to roll. So let's do it.
perfect. Perfect.
As you
I'm
can
going to
see,
leave the link in the description so you can sign up and get 50% off
yes,
your first
yes,
month
yes, yes.
and 10
But there
free
is no
credits.
way because we have never thought about it. You're asking me now. I'm telling you yes now. They can simply email me, and once
Yeah.
they register, they tell me their email, and I will add credits on the backend side. But as you can see
Per-
here, beautifully. In the meantime, we also generated from the Ideas tab. I highly recommend to use this. It already generated a screen from inside, right?
Okay,
So
nice.
yes, so people can start to see, oh, this is how my app can be structured, four at the bottom, four icons at the bottom, and yeah, they can add that to the prototype as well, and they can bring that to Xcode, Codex, Cloud Code, and build it.
Perfect. That's lovely. Alex, I have one more activity for you. So, Alex, you're the co-founder of Screens Designs. You know and you saw thousands of great onboarding screens for mobile applications. I want
Yes.
you to rank the following features and different types of screens when it comes to building highly performant onboarding experience. Let's
Yeah,
create a tier list together.
that's cool.
So, UI UX design. How important is that?
Okay, so, but let me check first. I need to give a quick scan because I
No, no,
cannot
no, no,
put
no.
everything on S tier.
UI UX design. Let's go. Where do we put it?
A, A,
A tier.
yes.
Okay. Psychology. How important is that?
Mm, S.
S tier. I was
Yes.
hoping
But
for
I would
that
say that
because
psychology and copywriting go together. Like I would
so
put them together.
copywriting is also
Yeah,
S.
because copywriting is writing like basically psychological principles. So yes.
Perfect. The pop up to ask for ad tracking permissions in the onboarding flow.
A.
A, it's important.
Yes. Well, A if you run ads. If you
If you
run
run
ads, is
ads,
very
it's
important.
important.
Yes. I mean, I'm thinking that
Yeah.
we run ads. We
Yeah.
like to run ads. So, but if you're an indie who only does ASO, then maybe it's like a D. It doesn't matter. Like it
Yeah.
depends. Yeah.
What about notification permissions?
Look, I would say if the app makes sense, it's very important. If it doesn't make sense and it's only a way to spam users, I would put it in a B. Depends.
A B. Okay.
If there is no reason to send notification, like if you are a weather app and you like to, hail damage or, you're a habit tracker and you need to, pop up user, like put your stuff, yes. But if you are an app that is only needed to be used when you want, then it doesn't matter too much. But it's either S or B. I don't know.
Okay, perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
Rate the app pop up.
I think B because it's nice to have if it makes sense for you in your test, it works, yes. But there are other ways to also get reviews. Like you can actually do outreach. You can ask your users to rate it in other ways. So
Okay, social proof
between B and A,
between B and A,
put it on
somewhere on
let's say
A.
A.
Let's go. Feature showcase, showcasing this is what the application is doing.
I think it's very important.
It's very important.
I think so. I think it's either A or S. I think S.
S. Okay.
Yes, in my opinion, yes. I know it's a contrary take, but in my opinion, like we were saying at the beginning of the convo, onboarding flow, uh, removing the friction of people being afraid of what the heck the app does helps a lot.
Okay, that's good. Videos, having videos in the onboarding flows.
A,
A. Okay.
yes. I mean,
Paywalls.
I'm putting nothing on C though because you're putting the important stuff. But paywall S, obviously.
Paywall is an S. That's probably
Yes.
like a very good S here.
Yes.
Quizzing, or yeah, asking for a lot of information.
Quiz can be either an S or a D because it depends on the type of app. As I was saying, this industry is made by niches and verticals. You know, fitness apps are different than productivity apps and business apps, for example. So, if you have a quiz on a productivity business app, probably a D. If you have a fitness app, probably an S. So, and all the way in the middle. It depends on the type of the
Okay.
vertical. Yeah,
I very much agree with you. Like
yeah,
it's for some application is S, for some it's D. Let's put
yeah.
it in S. Only if it makes
Yes.
sense. If it doesn't,
Yes,
like
yes, yeah,
having
yeah, yeah.
progress bar.
Look, Progress Bar is a nice to have. Progress Bar by itself will not change the world, but it can make drop-off users a little bit less because they feel that they see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I would call
Okay.
it a B or an A. Yeah.
A B. Let's put a B. Building your plan where the thing that we saw like loading, like we are building
Yeah,
your
yeah,
plan.
the loading.
The loading, yeah.
The loading, I would put it together with the quiz, to be
Yeah.
honest with you, because in some apps it makes a lot of sense. So if you have it's like a bit copywriting and psychology. In my opinion, they're like very much together. You know, they're very much the same thing almost. So I would not treat them separate. If it makes sense in a fitness app, in an astrology app, yes, yes. If it's a business app, you do not need to have a building your plan because you don't have a quiz.
Perfect. And finally, signing up or creating an account.
So signing up in the onboarding flow, D, but signing up after the onboarding flow is done and people join the app, it's very important because you can email people, you can have people, you know, sign in again if they lose if they lose their phone, they can still do it, but it's nice to have a contact with these people, being able to, you know, ask for feedback, what kind of features would you like. Um, so yeah, I would call it very important, but not in the onboarding flow. Right after, when the paywall, when the trial is activated.
Perfect. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. Amazing. So we have it. So as I understand, very important psychology and copywriting. Like in
Yeah,
my
they're the
opinion,
same
this
thing.
is
They go together. Yes,
yeah. I
because
think like
you
this
are
is
delivering psychology through copywriting. So, you know,
yeah. You show features of
you know,
application. You ask quiz if it makes sense. If you do the quiz, you also create a building your plan or a loading screen because that emphasizes that you are using the data that the user gave and your application is working. And then the paywall.
yeah,
Perfect. That's the secret, the secret sauce for a highly
it looks good.
converting
Yeah, it looks
onboarding
good.
screen.
Yeah, it makes sense. It makes
And
sense.
from probably our conversation today, I think A/B testing should be here
Oh,
with
yes,
everything
yes,
together.
yes, yes. And yeah, A/B testing and have a good, you know, analytics system to A/B test. Yeah, A/B test and a good analytics system. Very crucial with remote config, so you are able to drop tests and start a new test and keep iteration. Very important. Iterating. And hypothesis, very important. Hypothesis, how do you come up with hypothesis? You go to Screensdesign library. You can do random shuffles, for example, and see stuff. And say, oh, maybe I try this, maybe I try that. And then that goes through remote config into your testing game.
Perfect. That's exactly what I'm going to do right after this
Amazing, man.
recording. I personally learned so much from you, Alex. Thank you very much. I really hope that people watching this or listening to this also learned a lot from you and learned something that they can apply directly to their applications that can have a direct effect on the bottom line, on increasing the revenue, which matters,
Yes.
which is quite important for an indie developer.
Crucial. Yes.
Um, what is there anything you want to say at the end, Alex?
No, just use your link, go to Screens Design, try it out. We give 10 free screens for free. Then if you email us until the end of the February and you say that you come from Vadim, we'll give you more screens if you become a paid user. And that's pretty much it. It's a really nice it's a really nice game. It's really interesting. There are very reliable ways to make to make good cash with it, and it's but and it's very important that you keep on going no matter the challenges, that you keep iterating, you keep trying to improve your onboarding flows, your app, your product, your speed, your ads, and so at the end of the day, if you at some point you will strike gold.
Thank you very much. That's also something close to my heart as well.
Yeah,
Now that I'm doing the 10K MRR challenge this year, I'm trying to reach 10K MRR. But that's another
absolutely.
topic. Alex, thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
everyone for listening to this. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like this video, the podcast. Leave us a review and let us know what other people from the industry you'd like us to interview. Thank you very much and have a nice day. Bye bye.